It looks like the Genesis wants to bite me now. It is angry looking. Why hello you lovely little peppercorns, my name is Noa Lee and welcome to another episode of Playing With My Junk, the semi-unscripted show where I just randomly grab stuff off my shelf and we talk about it. So hey, without further ado, let's play with my junk. Today we are taking a look at my complete, or mostly complete, in-box 32X for the Sega Genesis. So as you probably already know, this thing was an add-on for the Sega Genesis that turned it from a 16-bit console into a 32-bit console, and it was a massive failure on Sega's part. It just did not sell well. It was overly expensive. You already needed a Sega Genesis, plus you needed this thing, and there were only around 40 games released for it, and that's between all three regions, North America, Europe, and Japan. It was only on the market for about a year, and then Sega shit-canned it, so yeah. Taking a look at the box here, we can see it actually comes in a really nice box. Kind of makes it look like a completely separate console from the Genesis, even though the Genesis is right there, and it does say like for use with the Genesis, or it says the 32-bit arcade upgrade for the Genesis and Sega CD. But yeah, I think it's a cool box. It's pretty solid. We have some more system specs over here. And basically the same thing we saw on the other side, but just in a different layout. And on the back, we have, it shows, oops, sorry, everything's reversed on the screen I'm looking at. We have what the setup they're expecting you to have is, so Model 2 Genesis, Model 2 version of the Sega CD, and then your little 32X right here. So yeah, so if I open this thing up on the side here, we can see that this all just slides out of the cake, like whoa. And in the box we have all the little goodies and goodie bits. First things first, let's take a look at the unit itself. This thing is kind of like mushroom shaped, and it sits on top of your Genesis Model 1 or Model 2, kind of like a big ass tumor, really. And we'll throw that on one of the systems in just a second here. We got some cables for it. This AV cable here, I believe, is the exact same one as the Genesis Model 2. This thing is a jumper cable that basically goes from the back of your Sega Genesis to the back of your 32X, and then this cable comes out of your 32X and goes to your TV. Just so many cables. By the way, this does take a completely separate AC adapter from the Genesis. And the Sega CD also took a separate AC adapter, so if you have this, the Genesis, and the Sega CD, for one console you need 3 AC adapters. Like, how fucking ridiculous is that? It does have its own power supply. I don't have it in the box because it's downstairs in my game room hooked up, and I didn't feel like digging through a bunch of wires to get it, but it's just an AC adapter, so. But as far as I know, the only thing I'm missing is the instruction manuals for this. And then we get to the weird stuff. So I'll set the box aside here. And we have 3 really weird items. So weird item number 1 is this plastic piece right here. And what this actually does is it goes onto your 32X like that. And that's so you can put it on top of your Genesis Model 2. And it basically is just like a stabilization unit. You can use it on top of your Model 2 without it. But let's put that back on there. But now you can see it's like really wobbly and squeaky. Whereas before it was pretty solid. Mysterious item number 2 is this thing. And what this thing does is it goes on the expansion port of your Genesis. And let's see if we can put that on there. And it doesn't want to go on very easily. And honestly, I feel like I'm going to break the Model 2. Thankfully, this is already a broken unit that I'm using for video purposes. So, oh god, I feel like I just broke the circuit board putting that in. But I mean, you put it on and it does this thing, and then you put this tumor on here. Sega just thought that the poor Genesis needed more tumors attached to it, apparently. So, what does this thing do? This guy is still a mystery to this day. It was included with some units of the 32X, but not others. And the packaging does not say that it's included. And like I said, not every 32X unit even came with one of these. So what does it do? Well, there's some hearsay as to what it does, which is that it's a Terminator unit, that it somehow jumps 2 pins together to make sure that certain games will work properly with the 32X, and others say that it's part of Sega getting around FCC regulations, which is what these guys are for, and we'll talk about it in a sec. But the truth of the matter is, nobody really knows. In fact, the instruction manual doesn't even mention this thing anywhere. In fact, I cannot find official Sega documentation that this thing even exists. It's just kind of known to be an inclusion in certain boxes of 32Xs and not others. It's a very strange item, and I would love to get in contact with someone from Sega someday to find out what their plan was for this thing, because right now it just doesn't do anything. So we're gonna set weird Frankenstein thing aside, and then we have these things. So these are 2 little pieces of metal that they go into the cartridge slot on your Sega Genesis, either Model 1 or Model 2. The idea with these is you put them in your cartridge slot on your Genesis Model 1 or Model 2. And then we have this electronic nightmare thing here. It looks like the Genesis wants to bite me. Ugh. And I don't know about you, but putting little pieces of metal into an electronic component is a little sketch to me. But the idea behind this is that these little metal pieces would connect to the metal contact points on the 32X, and it would block any rogue radio frequencies that the Genesis might emit that could potentially screw with your microwave or your grandpa's pacemaker or government spying satellites. And from the sound of it, they don't do jack shit. They were just included in the box so Sega could get around FCC regulations here in the United States. So now, I showed it with the Genesis Model 2, but it does actually work with the Genesis Model 1 as well. You don't need the plastic spacer thing. I'm not going to put in the metal tabs. Fuck that. This is really heavy when I put this thing on here, by the way. And then, the interesting thing is, it says right here on the box, compatible with all Genesis units except the CDX. And the CDX, which we'll look at more in depth in another video, is this guy right here. And this is my main Genesis unit. You've probably may have seen it in some of my other videos where I have my 32X on top of it, just like so. This is my CD 32X is what I call it. And the box says that it doesn't work with this, but that's a complete lie. It works just fine. I have heard, again, this is all hearsay, but I have heard that, oh, well, it technically works with the CDX, but certain games, they won't work with the CDX. Again, I think that's bullshit. I think that's just something people say because on the box it says it's not compatible, but the real reason that it says on the box that these two aren't compatible, and I'm pretty sure this is the case, is because Sega could not find a way to get around that FCC ruling. These little tabble thingies, the little metal tabs, they don't work with the CDX, and they probably figured it wasn't worth their time to engineer little metal tabs for the CDX. So yeah, I think they just stuck a sticker on the box that says these two aren't compatible when they perfectly are. But I mean, all that said, the 32X, I mean, it was never really used to its full potential. From what I've heard, it's actually a pretty powerful unit. For one thing, it actually has the same processor as the Saturn, although the Saturn's runs at a higher clock speed, and I believe the Saturn also had more video RAM than this, but it was a true 32-bit system. I don't know, it was just another case of Sega flooding the market and kind of diluting their fan base, so to speak. I mean, not only do you already need the Genesis, but you need the 32X, and then you might have had a Sega CD at the time, and it's no wonder that Sega is kind of known as a laughingstock for just making these, like, gross tumors that just grow on top of their best console. And it's kind of sad because, I mean, for one thing, the Sega CD is pretty cool. I think it's an underrated system. It's got a lot of good games, most of which were unfortunately never released in America. But the 32X, I've only played like two decent games on it. Most of them are trash. But hey, that's what it is. And that was the 32X, a pretty crappy system if we're being honest. It kind of just sits on top of my CDX and collects dust. I do play Genesis games in it. Not that I need it to play Genesis games, but if by some chance I do want to play a 32X game, it's there. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and now I want to know, have you ever played around with the 32X or know someone who has one? Do you yourself collect for it? Maybe you really like the system. Let me know down in the comments, and we'll keep this discussion going here. And as always, thank you for watching me play with my junk today, and I'll see you next time.